let's look into number 4 and number 5. All right. Okay, so for number 4, so let's make sure that we know which quadrant the point in, right? And then we'll draw the, all right, so -3, -4, so that has to be in the third quadrant, right? So the P is somewhere here. So let me zoom in a little bit more. All right, so you know that we need the R, right? Since we're looking at secant, you know that secant, cosecant, they're dealing with the hypotenuse, right? So R is always going to be a hypotenuse, and it's always positive, coming from the square root of sum of the squares of the x and y's. Well, these are good numbers, right? 3, 4, so we must get 5. And it's always positive. Please remember that R is never negative. All right, so now for these functions defined in terms of x, y, z, whenever you can, please go through the logic or memorization, right, to figure out what the definition for the secant. So secant is the reciprocal of cosine. Cosine is what over hypotenuse? Adjacent of hypotenuse, right? Now, which of the coordinate, is it x or y that will be taken as the adjacent? X is the horizontal width, right? So it's the adjacent x. So that's why it's r over x. Okay, so now there you go, right? 5 over -3, so it's -5/3. Okay. So do this for a few more times, right? Start with a diagram, and later on you can have it in your head, right? Now for easy numbers, you can do mental math to figure out the R. But for this one, please try it until you feel like that there's no way you can get it wrong. Now let's do number 5. All right. Well, that's actually a little bit easier than it usually is, right? Because number 5, we thought that's going to be a bit tricky. So the point P has to be in the first quadrant, right? But both x and y are positive, right? And it has 8, 6, right? To be its coordinates. You're gonna find the R. Oh, actually, we don't know the R. We don't need the R, but if you want, turns out to be 10. So we want cotangent, which is the reciprocal of a tangent, right? So tangent is opposite of adjacent. So cotangent is going to be adjacent by opposite. And we just said the adjacent will be x, right? Opposite will be y. So that is 8 over 6, right? Which simplifies to 4/3. There you go, right? Okay, let me zoom out a bit more in case you guys want to take pictures, right? But yeah, any questions so far? Guys all good with algebra, right? No memorization, right? But most likely the routine, right? The routine for these type of questions. All right. Now, let me show you a problem that I meant to discuss yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to do it. I'll let you think for maybe a minute or two, see if you can have some thoughts. Right. It is quite similar to what we have done so far, especially, the 5 exercises, well, 3 of the exercises we just did. But, it's less straightforward for some reason. Okay. I'll give you a minute or two to think about it. Yeah, somehow they choose not to give you the point, right? But if you need the point, maybe take some educated guess, like what kind of x, y coordinates it must have, such that tangent theta is -1/3. And don't forget cosine theta has to be negative. All right, so before I go over it, anyone have any thoughts like what we could do? Go ahead, Quinn. Mm-hmm.
Which means either negative.
Mm-hmm.
But you also know that would
Mm.
which
Mm.
so for sine you would need opposite over adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the xy coordinate y over. So that means it's
Mm-hmm.
as your
Hypotenuse, yeah, R. Mm-hmm. Good.
which is
Pythagorean theorem.
it's
Mm-hmm.
so now you have all sine and c.
Mm-hmm.
Multiply both sides by
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3.
Good, yeah. So just want to make sure that everyone, know exactly, when just told us. Let me just quickly recap, and you tell me, what you think, right? So the Quinn's telling us that basically based on the ratio of tangent, right, which is related to x and y. So his goal, after through some reasoning, he's trying to find out what the x, y values, right, should you use for an angle theta like that. By noticing cosine theta is negative, he's narrowing down to the second quadrant where x has to be negative, y has to be positive, right? And also, right, the second quadrant, y is positive. And later on, he found himself needing, the r, right, to get to the hypotenuse because sine and secant deals with, hypotenuse. Right? So, yeah, what do you think, right? Well, it's a multiple step, process, right? But I hope that the whole logic makes sense, right? Because you want to change this problem into something that you just did. If you have x, y, r, you're able to get all 6 functions. Doesn't matter which one you want, but you don't have xr, right? X, y, r, so go find them. Now, here's what I suggest. Let's just be realistic. So it's likely that you're going to get more than one question like this in a test. Okay, so now if you can be quick doing the reasoning like the Queen just did, great. If I were you, the first time I see that question in a test, I might just quickly write down all 6 functions on the spreadsheet, right? This is like your formula sheet right? And if you don't have the time to write them down at the beginning of the test, write them down because you're probably gonna need them anyway later on, right? Because those are things that easy enough but take some time to recall. So let's do that. Like I said, take every chance to practice memorizing, these kind of stuff. Okay. So now I don't want to spoil your memories, memorization again. Can everyone picture a right triangle plotted in the first quadrant? Oh, okay. And R is the hypotenuse, right? Y is the vertical side. That's the opposite of theta, right? The adjacent side is X. So SOHCAHTOA, right? Again, SOHCAHTOA. All right, so the sine is opposite of the hypotenuse, right? So opposite is Y, hypotenuse R. Cosine is adjacent of the hypotenuse, right? Tangent is opposite of adjacent. And now cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine, so R over Y. Secant is, again, the reciprocal of cosine, so R over X. Cotangent is, again, reciprocal of a tangent, so X over Y, right? And what do we need? We need sine and secant, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and find out what the R is. Now, since we're going to need it anyway, right? So R is, let's not jump the steps, right? So like Niquin said, let's go ahead and figure it out what quadrant it is. So tangent is negative, right? Cosine is negative. So it's got to be in the second quadrant, right? So the tangent is positive in the first and third quadrant. Cosine is positive in the first and the fourth quadrant. So that leaves you no choice but the the second quadrant, right? So here's the point P, right? And he said, hey, how do I get 1/3? Well, tangent is y over x, right? So I'm gonna need a negative x for the positive y, so it better be 1 comma negative 3, right? Does it make sense? Am I doing this right? Oh yeah, thank you. Negative 1. That's it good now, right? Yeah, so negative x, right? Positive y. Why does y have to be 3? Because it's, oh, am I doing this right? Y over, it happens, yeah, it happens. Yeah. Well, it's good to show you that's a reality. All right, so I need positive y, right? And the y needs to be 1, and the x needs to be negative 3. Now, it is right now, right? So tangent, right? Y over x. So y over x, and indeed, right? That's negative 1/3. Okay. Whew. So let's go ahead and take, keep forgetting about the steps. All right, so R is the square root of x squared plus y squared, right? So you get square root of negative 3 squared plus 1 squared, right? So that's going to get you radical 10. So now sine theta, which is y over r, right? So y is 1, r is radical 10. So now you could leave it like that if it's a free response, as long as I didn't demand, a rational denominator. But if you could quickly rationalize the denominator, that would be nice. Okay. Zoom out a little bit. So the next one is secant. Right. Secant is r over x. So you get radical 10 over x is negative 3, right? There you go, right? Nothing to rationalize on the denominator. Sorry, that was not bad to show you that, so easy to make mistakes, right? But I hope that you realize, in the test, there are a lot of traps. Not saying that they were designed to trap you, It's just that we're human beings, right? The sign errors, right? The order X and Y. I'll say just be careful. Now, any questions? Say it again? Sure. All right. Now, let me show you some questions like that. So we may not have time to, work everything out, and because these are the questions that you're gonna have to work on anyway for our test, right? But I'm actually more curious about 9 and 10. Okay, so let me work out 9, and you guys give it a try, in number 10. How about that? All right, so now it's the same kind of question, right? So you're given a trig function, which is cotangent, right? That's a negative 3/2. I want to find out what is the cosecant given cosine has to be negative. Okay. Now for number 9, so now why don't you guys tell me which quadrant the theta has to be in? Quadrant 2, right? Cotangent has to be negative, right? So it's either going to be second or the fourth, but cosine is positive in the fourth, right? So it has to be in a second quadrant. Right, so there will be a point here. Okay, so now the question is, what kind of x or y's I'm dealing with, right? So hopefully, well, you could look it up right now, right? So I think that we did y over x, right, for tangent. So it's going to be x over y for cotangent. Am I right? Cotangent. I was wrong again. Wait, adjacent, adjacent. Oh yeah. So I think that's right. Okay. So now, what do I want for the ratio? So I want 3 over 2. So x needs to be 3, right? Y needs to be 2. But one of them has to be negative, right? But in the second quadrant, x is negative, right? So now I'm going to make the 3 a negative 3. Make sense? All right, so that's why this is negative 3 over 2, right? That's indeed what do I want. So now what else do I need? Okay, cosecant. All right, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, right? Sine is opposite of hypotenuse, opposite of y. So that means it's r over y. Let me know if I did it wrong. Because I need an r. Okay, so let's go ahead and find out what an r is. R is square root of 3 squared plus 2 squared. So you guys realize that it doesn't matter whether it's going to be a 3 or negative 3, right? Because you square it, it's going to get positive anyway. So what is this? Radical 13, right? Okay, good. Thank you. So we have radical 13 for r divided by y, that is 2. Okay. Oh, you have an option there, right? That's it, right? So let's say that the hardest part is make sure that you're able to locate where the p is, get the signs correctly for x and y, right? Don't forget r. Sometimes people forget about taking a square root, right? Once you get x, y, r, you get everything for those functions, right? But you have to memorize, those definitions in terms of x, y, r. All right. Now, number 10, go ahead. All right, so I'll give you maybe 2-3 minutes. Go ahead, number 10. Number 10, go ahead. Cosine is 8 over 17. The theta is in a range of 3 pi over 2 to 2 pi. Doing okay? Some sort of game? That's some sort of game? What is that? Wow, pretty good at multitasking. Yeah.
Right? Just convert this to degrees.
That's fine, you know, if you, well, like I said, you know.
What is this help for?
What is the what?
What is this help for? I mean, I know that it's greater than or less than.
So it's telling you where the theta is located, like which quadrant it is, because, you know, it does matter, right?
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay. It tells you the quadrant instead of the cosine of the
Exact.
I got you. I can show you.
Hey, like 1 more minute.
X is 81.
So you would do 17 squared minus 8 squared, so minus 64 is 52.
Very soon. Square root. Y is 15. Okay, so then. So it's X over Y. Eight over Y. The angle data. That's the data.
The light bulb, flickered on.
All right, I hear some pretty good discussions, you know, over there, you know, also here as well. So I think that, you know, there's no need to really check on you guys, you know, since I'll say that for questions like that, I mean, number 10 is, you know, at the medium to advanced level, right, in our test. And I'm glad that, you know, people notice, you know, the key things to do, right? Which is again the same as in number 9. So first, let's locate which quadrant the theta is located, right? Now, why do you think they're telling you the theta is in the range of 3 pi by 2 and 2 pi? Well, they wish that, oh, go ahead, McQueen. The quadrant, right? But they don't want to make it too simple for you guys, right? If they put 270 degree to 360 degree, then you know right away it's quadrant 4, right? Anyway, so it's in quadrant 4. Okay. So now, since we're looking for cotangents, that means we need to figure out what x, y's are, right? So in quadrant 4, remind yourself that cosine is, what is that? Adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So it's going to be x over r. And I heard, you know, people say, well, in this case, x is going to be 8, right? R has to be 17, right? Does it make sense that R is positive 17? X is also positive 8, right? Hey, it's in the 4th quadrant, right? What do you expect for X? So if X is 8, you want to note the Y, right? Since you need it for the cotangent. And it's good that people realize, I mean, hey, if R square is X squared plus Y squared, right? So you can invert it to find y, which is the square root of r squared minus x squared, right? And, you know, plug in the numbers. I believe that you're going to get 15. You know, somehow, 8, 15, and 17 are Pythagorean triplets. Okay, good. Good point. So now you realize, okay, there's something wrong, right? You know, in the 4th quadrant, I cannot take positive 15, right? So it has to be negative 15, right? But here's the problem. So let's see if anyone can address my confusion. Hey, last time I checked, radical has to be positive. Why am I getting positive, but I insist that it has to be negative? I mean, it doesn't make sense here. Right, but that's the fact. So I want you guys to tell me, did I do something wrong here? Because it seems to tell me that I have to get a positive y. But I knew that y has to be negative. Right? So it's going to be something wrong with this. You guys learned some more last semester when you solve for a quadratic equation. Yes. You guys see that? Yeah, as you square root the y, because it was y squared equal to r squared minus s squared, right? So you're supposed to have two possibilities. And it is because we realize that in this case, the negative possibility works out, right? Does it make sense now? So, I mean, yeah, later on, it should be trivial, right? Cotan is, let me finish writing it. What is that? Is it x over y? X over y, so it'll be negative a over 15. Now, do a quick sanity check. Is cotangent negative in the fourth quadrant? Yes, because it is positive in the first and the third quadrant, right? All right.